Because they sure won't.
This is gonna be interesting.
They're Jack and Dave in the morning on 1400 AM and 94.5 FM KLIN.
All right, welcome back. Glad to have you with us. It is Jack and Dave in the morning at 8:36. And we are joined, as we are every other week, by Jason Peterson, the man at Turbine Interactive, our technology, gadgets, electronics, social media marketing guru. Jason, good morning. Happy New Year. How you doing?
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good.
Gentlemen. Wow.
Yeah, there you
You're
go.
all wound up for New Year's. Good
I was
for
going
you.
to say, you guys have graduated to the level of
Well,
gentlemen.
I think we got all our Husker talk out of the way during the break. So,
yeah, we
I
did.
mean,
Had to lament a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. And you said it best, Jason. I went into the game, let's be honest, like a lot of people, I went into the game expecting a loss, hoping that it wasn't a blowout loss. And then there was that moment there into the third quarter where I said, Nebraska looks like they're the better team here. For a moment, it genuinely,
agree.
I think, looked that way for a while. They've got a real legit shot of winning this game, and I didn't want to let myself believe it. And right when I did, the bottom fell out.
Yeah, I told you. They teased us. They teased us with the possibility of actually knocking off an SEC team and having a signature win. So, better luck next year.
Frustration.
Yeah, indeed.
Well, Jason joins us, and, we've had a lot of tech talk the last few days. I know a lot of people have probably got new stuff for Christmas, and probably more people than ever playing with new tablets, new phones, whatever it might be. By the way, if you ever have any questions, you can shoot us an email, jackanddave@klin.com. We can pass it on to Jason and cover it in one of his segments. Let's look ahead for tech predictions in 2013, Jason, because I know you've been making a lot of them. This is kind of what you do. It's important for you to stay on top of things. What are the biggest things you see being stories in 2013?
Well, again, we'll post kind of a list here after the show of just some things that we're predicting as such. I think the first one that's been a rumor, but obviously is going to happen, this whole Apple TV thing is going to come to fruition in some way, shape, sense, or form. Whether it's a stinker or whether it's not, I think we're going to finally see that as far as take place.
Now, when you say Apple TV, are you talking about an actual TV that Apple does? Because
Correct.
there already is an
Correct.
existing product, isn't there? That
Correct.
It's an add-on box.
This would be like an actual hardware specific product, I should say, that they're going to be selling. That it's been well documented. So I think that's going to be, in my opinion, probably the biggest new hardware device that will probably come out in 2013. Again, the question is whether or not it's able to make the splash. Personally, I'm a little skeptical, but we'll wait and see.
It's just if they can keep that price point. You can get TVs, these flat screen TVs, more cheaply than ever right now, and so they've got to be able to make the price point competitive, I think, for a lot of people to actually be interested. Plus, I know, Dave, I know you've got this. Jason, I've heard you talk about it. More and more people are getting these boxes, these set-top boxes, the Rokus or whatever they are, and that's
amazing.
To me, that's going to be the big thing in 2013.
No, I have the Roku, and I think it's, I mean, and that gets into some of the other stuff. I mean, everybody's trying to provide and deliver consumable content. I mean, that's the age we live in, and that's kind of one of the other ones that I've been reading is that although Amazon, they've certainly done all right with their Kindles, it sounds like they're really prepping themselves because of, their massive, retail position from the e-commerce perspective. They really own that space. Mm-hmm. So there's some talk about how they're going to really maximize that leverage, how that's going to take place, but I think they're going to beef things up substantially.
Do you think they come out with a phone or a tablet? You think they become a competitor with Apple?
I think they're going to fight. I mean, I think you're going to see them. I think you're going to see Yahoo. They've been completely irrelevant.
Yeah.
And the gal from Google, Marissa.
Yeah, the new CEO.
Yeah, the new CEO. I'm reading that she's the real deal. She's only been there a short amount of time, but she's shaking things up pretty significantly. And I think it gets into one of the unique things about kind of the Gen X, Gen Y, is that we're not afraid of technology. And so whether you're running a business as a CTO, a marketing director, or even in just project management, I think it's a time and age where, regardless, to do communications, you got to not be afraid and look for opportunities to use technology to, leverage and promote your business.
Which is all well and good. And I don't care how you want to classify me, Gen X, Gen Y, angry white man, whatever you want to call me. It doesn't matter. I'm a consumer, and I'm not afraid of technology. But if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. So
Correct.
if Apple TV ends up being Google TV, I don't care.
That's correct. And so it at the end of the day, it still is about mass adoption and about, the general. I mean, it's my grandfather going, hey, that iPad's cool and I'd like to mess around with it. As long as they're able to make it consumer friendly, absolutely, then it's going to be relevant. But I think that's the thing we're seeing, consolidation with social media. You're going to look for probably some more acquisitions like there was with Instagram. There's big talk about Pinterest getting gobbled up by somebody. Yeah. So I think you're going to start seeing, it's been a very fragmented industry. It's kind of like if you remember the whole PC industry where there was a lot of big acquisitions back in the late 80s and early 90s. So I think you're going to see some consolidation, and that's going to really change things.
I want to go back to the TV thing because I saw a story last night. This is late last night, so this is fairly new, but it was a report from Forbes saying that Intel is going to, as they call it, blow up the cable industry with its own set-top box and unbundled cable service. So they're going to deliver cable content to any device with an internet connection, and instead of having to pay $80 a month for 200 channels you don't want, you're going to be able to subscribe to specific channels of your choosing, according to this Forbes article. Yeah, it's another one of those set-top box things, although this is different than the existing ones. But I think the Roku thing, could that be a substitute for cable or satellite or something like that? How do you use it?
It depends on your content. To us, it's fairly new.
Right.
But we did the same thing with a Wii about a year ago, where we were getting Netflix that way. The difference between the Roku 2 and the Wii is just night and day, because the clarity and the HD picture is just amazing, and how fast it downloads comparatively to the Wii. But we basically use it for movies.
But to get the content, you're subscribing to a Netflix or a Hulu Plus or an Amazon Prime, probably, right?
Yeah, we have Amazon Prime, which is primarily how we're getting stuff. We already had a Netflix account.
Yeah.
And we'll look into Hulu, but I don't know.
How about you, Jason?
Yeah, I've got. I have the Hulu account. I don't do Netflix anymore. I kind of phased out of that.
There's not enough good movies on there. I don't know.
We do the in-demand. We currently have Dish. I think it really boils down to, do you want a la carte, or do you want to pay a subscription? And I think if somebody can find the sweet spot in between that.
Yeah.
But again, it's this massive competition to deliver content, and for the consumer, this can be confusing because, where do you pick? Where do you go?
Yeah, it is. It's hard.
Right.
And you bring up a really good point too. There's no middle ground either. You either have, Land Before Time 1 through 378, and Killer Clowns from Outer Space, or you pay for HBO and then you get all the first run stuff.
Yeah,
that's exactly right.
Well, and I'm skeptical about whether something like this Intel rumor actually happens, because there are a lot of big entities out there who want to see the cable. The cable industry survive, Disney, and that whole TV ecosystem is just kind of benefited by cable being healthy, I think, to some degree. So that's kind of another uphill battle.
But even Disney, they cover their own tracks and they CYA everything, but they're everywhere. They just bend a deal with Starz. So for the next 3 years, instead of doing that on-demand stuff with Time Warner or whoever individually, Starz carries all of their content in an exclusive thing.
At the end of the day, the only company that's been able to make money off of products is Apple. Everybody else is a commodity. The Kindle is a commodity. It's always about trying to get the subscription, the software, or the delivery of content. So that's, to me, is why you see this fight going on. Now, again, if somebody can figure out to make the margins that Apple does on hardware and on software, that's the golden goose. That's where you make the most amount of money for those big companies.
Right. What else do you have? We talking about competitors to Apple? I know Windows has been out. I actually have a laptop now with Windows 8 on it, so I've been experimenting with it a little bit. They're trying to make it feel like Android or Apple. There's nothing in the app stores. It's devoid of anything of worthwhile content at this point. But
to me, I think it's not fully baked. I think it has potential. All the reviews that I've read, I think it's not going to make the dent that they're hoping. That's my thing, is because, again, it doesn't have the ecosystem yet. If they have the ecosystem of the apps and they can, they're doing everything. They're throwing everything but the kitchen sink at all these young kids to do apps for the App Store from Microsoft.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I talked to a young kid that had got like an email and they're going to give away all this software free in exchange for them doing some apps. So they're trying hard. But I think even bigger than the hardware stuff, I think the mobile advertising model is going to become more mature. I think that's the thing. Up to this point, it's been really, not very sophisticated. But that's ultimately, guys, that's where Facebook has to make its money. That's the only way they will satisfy the shareholders. So I think you're going to see a more sophisticated way of doing advertising on mobile that will be effective. I think that's going to be one of the biggest marketing trends in 2013.
And it'll be interesting. And then going hand in hand with that, too, you get into those conversations about privacy when it comes to Facebook. People are always concerned. There are always these rumors out there, well, my face might be used in an ad or my name. You're starting to see more and more on Facebook, well, your friend likes this company, and then it'll be the top thing in your news feed, and then it'll have essentially what's an advertisement for that company coming right now. And it's going to be that balance of whether or not people like that blatant advertising, if they would actually get bothered enough by that kind of stuff to quit using something like that.
The thing that I had read, and you're spot on, is that some of the tracking measures that they're using are going to become illegal. So I think, from a privacy perspective, I think it was the Federal Trade Commission had released some comments on this, that you're going to see some greater levels of scrutiny. And quite frankly, some of it is a good thing. I know that there were some conversations with Apple and some of the things they were storing as related to their users and user accounts. So I think for consumers, that is a good change. I mean, some of it's inevitable, but ultimately there needs to be a watchdog to some degree, making sure they don't take advantage of consumers.
Jason Peterson, our guest from Turbine Interactive, talking tech predictions for 2013. One of them that I know you had surprises me that it hasn't gotten bigger yet to some degree, and that's mobile wallet and people paying.
Yes.
Mobily, essentially. I know on the new Apple interface they've got this passbook thing, and I don't know if that's exactly what we're talking about here.
Yeah,
but
similar.
This is something that's coming, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, right now you're having kind of, and you can jog my memory. There was Blu-ray, and what was the other standard for HD DVDs? Are you recalling?
It was actually That's what it was. It was called HD DVD.
Okay,
it was kind of the Betamax. Yeah.
So what you've got is the same thing. They're jockeying for what's going to be the standard. There's standard technology in some of the phones, some of the Google phones that use the Google Wallet for transactions. Apple hasn't adopted that as much. So somebody needs to settle on, is this Bluetooth, is this USB, whatever it is. And once that's done, absolutely, I think you're going to see a more comprehensive way of payment on your phone.
What is that going to look like exactly? Is it going to be scanning a code? Is it going to be you handing your phone to someone else? I'm just trying to think of what the transaction is going to be like, because I honestly think 2 years down the line, this is how we'll pay for most things.
Well, I believe it's kind of a short-range technology that doesn't have to be paired like Bluetooth. You got to press a button. This would be you just hold your phone and then it does it. So you don't even have to hand it to them. It would be done that way. Now, obviously, you open up your app, you do a password or a 4-digit key.
Right.
Boom, you pick whichever you want to do it. So the whole you signing and going through all that rigmarole, gone.
Right.
I think that it may not be as mature next year, but I think it's going to start gaining traction where they may start to develop a standard.
Well, Starbucks already has this thing now where
how's
your
that
card
work?
basically is on your phone, and you hold it out, and they scan your code, and away you go.
Exactly. It's been pretty slick, and I think
that's coming big time.
Oh,
absolutely.
Absolutely. I mean, even for myself, I ran into a situation at Menards where I forgot my wallet. And I did have my driver's license scanned on my secure Evernote account. And I did actually have a debit card that I had scanned that was in a picture. And I was able to pay.
Really?
Yeah.
You're kidding.
No.
You
I'm
gave
serious.
it to them and
I
they
was
took
able
it?
they were able to fill it out. It wasn't as efficient on a slip.
Right.
But I had enough information. It was like doing an e-commerce order. So, I mean, at the very least, I'm not saying everybody would cooperate. It's definitely possible to be able to do some of that stuff, and it's just a matter of time.
That's interesting. Talking about hardware, going back to that a little bit, what do you think happens in the tablet market in 2013?
I think I'm not expecting a huge splash in innovation necessarily. I think it continues to mature. I think the big question for me is going to be if Windows can develop a stronger ecosystem. But more specifically, I do think Google, their OS is getting much improved for the tablet. Their latest is Jelly Bean or whatever. So I think the experience, you're going to see more app developers adopt I think a more sophisticated experience for the tablet, which is frankly where the iPad's been better. But like I just bought a client of mine, I bought them a Google Nexus 7-inch.
Yeah.
And he loves it.
Really?
He loves it.
Okay.
Now, on the other hand, my wife got a iPad mini, and she loves it.
Oh, does she?
Absolutely over top. And it's the only time I've ever seen her not put a device down.
Huh.
So I'm personally not an iPad mini guy, but I do think that's the place where Google needs to improve is their tablet experience as far as the apps and ultimately just the experience.
And the Windows 8 interplay will be interesting because everyone buying a laptop, a computer, has experience with it. They've got a built-in advantage because it's being filtered out to all these people who are buying computers. Yeah. Everyone's using Windows
Correct.
somewhere anyway, you know?
It's an inevitable thing on an upgrade. I still think their sweet spot, and I've mentioned before, is the hybrid tablet that still runs the fully baked Windows apps, but it's kind of an ultrabook / tablet.
That's what
I think
that's this new computer I got. You switch between the old Windows screen and then the tablet screen, and it's a touch screen, but it's not. It doesn't flip around. But it's an interesting experience. I'll tell you about it.
Okay, sounds good, guys.
All right, there we go. Jason, we're out of time. We appreciate it. Great predictions for 2013. Check out their website. Thisisturbine.com for more great stuff from Jason and the rest of the folks at Turbine Interactive. 8:52. We'll take a break. Jack and Dave on KLIN.
If you need to get your watch fixed.